As men, especially as doctors, sometimes we hyper-focus on our career, neglecting other facets of our lives. But that is about to change. This is Dads Before Doctors. Some physicians claim their family is their top priority, but their lives tell a very different story. We'll help each other become family men who are doctors rather than doctors who have families. If it's health, wealth and legacy, emotional well-being, parenting, professional goals, or marriage, we're talking about it. Thanks for listening, and make sure to subscribe. This is Dads Before Doctors, and this is your host, Adam Broussard, MD.
All right, welcome back to Dads Before Doctors podcast. Today, our guest is Mr. Jim Sheils. Welcome, Jim.
Hey, Adam. Good to be here. Thanks.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, obviously, I know you've worked with Front Row Dads and Go Abundance. Those are part of my worlds. I've been a full-time real estate investor for 23 years. Still have do a number of transactions here in Florida, building investment property. But I also started a family education company about 10 years ago because I saw a big gap between success in business and success at home. And there was all these things out there that would help guys like you and I, whether we're doctors or real estate investors or both, or, you know, we're busy, but there's lots of things to help us become that better doctor or improve our business there or invest in real estate or market. And, but there wasn't a lot for how do we be better at home? And if there was anything available, you almost had to be a PhD in family psychology to understand it. So I wanted simple rhythms and strategies that you could understand, buy into, and see results time and time again. So I started to look for them on my own, and that actually led me to writing a book, hosting retreats, going out on some speaking tours before the pandemic, to try to help people like you and I who, yeah, it's important what we do, and our career is important, and our entrepreneurial pursuits are important, but it's all for naught if we lose our family along the way. Absolutely,
Jim. And that's what, where Dads Before Doctors came from. About this time last year, I was doing some life coaching with other male physicians, and the same topics just came up over and over again between, wanting to figure out work-life balance, trying to climb the ladder of, making partner or becoming assistant professor, full professor. And then another, segment of physicians that were just chasing fire, trying to get out of the medical profession as fast as they can, but taking up more days in the office and whatnot, but missing out, on their family time and trying to figure out how to balance that. So that's where Dads Before Doctors came from. And luckily found, some other groups and found your book, and I've been singing its praises since, and told a lot of people about it, and actually talked about it on another podcast last week about it. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's, and I'd like to think it's a great book because it's really short. It's really easy to understand and apply. And I think that shortness, it makes it easier for people to say, all right, let me just take this down real quick. And it's the subject in there where it's not about me and you, it's about the person reading it and the people they care the most about, but they're just not exactly sure how to stay grounded in the relationship, and as busyness happens, how do we make sure they don't get pushed to the side? No one really taught us that. And believe me, it's not just doctors, it's all areas, but I think doctors, because I've worked with a number of different doctor groups, some dental groups, and I mean, you guys are very well-trained experts. I mean, I'm still amazed at what you're able to do. And I think sometimes there's almost a pressure where there's that little negative guy on the shoulder of a doctor, for example, or a surgeon saying, how can you not figure this out? You can take my arm off and put it back on, but you can't figure out how to stay grounded with your children and your spouse at home. But there are some, if we're never taught and we have no fluency and have never been taught any little tricks of the trade, it's not something to be ashamed of. It's shame, I haven't really put the magnifying glass on this subject. But once you do, and some of the things we'll talk about today, it does get easier and you do see results. And there's absolutely no reason to beat yourself up, because although the principles are simple, it's not always easy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was actually having a conversation with one of my colleagues yesterday about a service that we're trying to start, and she'll answer phone calls when she's on vacation and whatnot. And I'm like, you've got to look out for yourself too, not, and your family, but you're going to burn out. And if you burn out, you can't help all the patients to come ahead, even though she is probably the best person to answer some of these questions. But she was answering questions from Costa Rica, Nicaragua, like the past couple of weeks on vacation. So
and there have to be some guideposts and some boundaries, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think a word, my friend Dan Martell, he's big in the SaaS world. He was a big fan of my book. We'd go back and forth on stuff, and he taught me the word integration, which I really love. You want to integrate your family life and your friends into your business life. And integration starts to move more in rhythm. And there's times where it's going to be all family. There's times it's going to be all business. But when you integrate them together, then you don't feel like, oh, I'm half into my family life right now and trying to take this call, or, hey, I'm at work right now and I feel like I should be home. There's more clear lines, and that actually causes better integration. And we could talk about a few principles today that I think might be a starting point for people.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think, I think that a lot of people are like, yeah, I spend plenty of time with my kids, but they're always on their phone, checking the email or taking a work call while they're at, t-ball practice or whatever. So I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I call that lack of focus half-in parenting. Half-in parenting is a very dangerous way to try to stay connected with family life, because you pretend that you're available, but you're actually never available. Because if you're always on that little buzz in your phone, or you're trying to talk to someone while you're texting something, you are fooling yourself that you think that you're actually present or seeing all the signs of nonverbal communication. If your spouse is trying to tell you something, your children are, you will miss the cues. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the smartest doctor out there. Yeah, you're good at diagnosing, but if you're in that half-in state, you're not at your best. So A couple of things that I know from the book that you read, and we can give them just some principles that they'll be reading about in the book. I think one of the best starting points for this is the one-to-one principle. And just setting the intention on this will absolutely change your family life. It is the most potent, yet the most underused and overlooked of principles in relationship building, especially when I started to design this 10 years ago. But if you want to be grounded at home and feel connected and not like an outside stranger, you have to start to separate the parts to strengthen the whole. And what that means is you have to intentionally take one-on-one time with each member of your family, your spouse, your oldest, your middle, your youngest, however many kids you have. And what I found is when I started to spend one-on-one time with each of my family members, the family grew stronger as a whole. And one-on-one time puts the magnifying glass on that relationship in a very deliberate way. Takes away distractions. If you're the busy medical professional that's not normally home and it's your spouse that's home, well, your kids might lean more towards that spouse at home. When you're one-on-one, your spouse can't be there to kind of hold up the conversation or create the conversation, or, you have to be there for the uncomfortable silence, and the full, one-on-one focus time is just yours and yours alone. That means no friends. That means no siblings. That means none of your friends or cousins or grandparents. That's all great. Look, I came from an Irish Catholic family, which means I have like 5,000 cousins, and that's great. Big celebrations are a lot of fun, but it was really the molding of my relationship were those periods when I was spending one-on-one time with my wife or each one of my children. And I think once you start to see that, you will get below the surface. You will set the stage to be able to at least pull out some deeper conversation. I mean, I don't know a single 13-year-old out there that wants to talk about puberty in front of their little brother. That's just not a good combination. So this is the number one thing. If we start to actually set and schedule one-on-one time with each member of our family, the family will become stronger.
Yeah. And one-on-one without the cell phone too.
Well, that's number two. You're skipping ahead, Adam.
Okay. So when do you typically start? So I've started with my 4-year-old when he was, probably about 3.5 after I read the book. My second son's about 18 months. So when will you typically start when?
So great question. So I believe 2.5 to 3 is when one-on-one time is starting to become realized and appreciative. And you should start scheduling. Don't forget this, that which we schedule gets done. That
Absolutely.
which we schedule gets, if you don't schedule it, just like, could you imagine having a successful running a successful doctor's office and you didn't schedule any of your patients? That's crazy. It just wouldn't work. People go, oh, well, that's so impersonal. I say, no, my family is by far my most important clients or investors or key team members in my life and overall business. So I'm going to schedule them like they were, absolute top priority, which they are. And I found that once we schedule it, it gets done. I'm not going to, there's a couple of members, I've coached a few members in GoBundance, and one who was very successful at the 9-figure level, and I became friends. And he called and he said, look, I read your book. I get it. I want to start doing these with my kids. I can't seem to get it going. I knew what this guy was worth. I mean, a lot. And I said, when's the last time you managed your own schedule? Proudly, he's like, I haven't managed my own schedule in 11 years. I said, exactly. So right now, call your head executive assistant. And I said, call him. And we did. And I said, you need to put these on the schedule right now. Right now, we need to put these in. These are non-negotiable. I mean, to move them, there has to be something really seriously happening. Once you got it on the schedule, he's been doing them for years now. But that which we schedule gets done. You start around 3.5. And as you were alluding to, Adam, that's the starting point, though. What else will help this one-on-one time? Well, the other thing that's going to help this one-on-one time is something that's definitely affecting all areas of your life. I know this for a fact because of the lack of focus we all have today of today's environments. And that's intermittent tech fasting. Now, that's a term we coined about 5 years ago in our company. We've all heard of intermittent fasting, right? What the health professionals are saying. I'm not one, and I've used it. They say it helps with organ regeneration, weight maintenance, weight loss, muscle tone, cleaning the body out, precancerous cells, all that stuff, right? You're not giving up eating. You're just eating specifically between this time and this time, right? I am always challenging and encouraging people like us, Adam, to take up intermittent tech fasting. Doesn't mean you got to give up technology and move to a survival ranch in Montana. But what it means is you're very intentional with the times that you use technology. And when don't you use technology? Well, I can tell you when I don't. Every Wednesday, 5:30 to 8:30, I have a date with my wife. My phone is not invited. I tried to invite it when I first started doing date night with her. That didn't go so well. That's total lack of respect, taking a text or an email or a phone call. I mean, I'm embarrassed to even say it, but it's not invited. Another time is when I'm doing these quarterly board meetings with my children. And as you know, the book is about, I have a quality one-on-one day with each of my children every quarter. It's changed our relationship. My phone is not invited. And the more that you take that away, you take away, again, another distraction. And it opens up the lines of communication and the focus, the magnifying glass on that one relationship.
Yeah, we actually have a phone jail sitting on the bookshelf right here. So I need to use it more often.
There was a guy who's Sean in Front Row Dads. I'll never forget. I spoke at one of the first Front Row Dads, and he was telling the gun safe story, where we had all talked about the importance of getting away from our phones. He would go home at the end of the day, and I think he owned a marketing company, and he would lock his phone in a gun safe. So if you had that little trigger reaction for 2 hours, so he'd have 2 hours with just his family, no distractions. We all, oh, let me check that thing real quick. Oh, let me Google what this means. Oh, let me see what that text was. He would actually put it in a gun safe to have it away from you. So these one-on-one days with your kids, if you put it on airplane mode, because maybe you want to take a picture or two, that's great. You can't be disturbed.
Yeah.
And this is a really serious issue, Adam, because we're not as good as we think. And I'll tell you one of my failures. It was years ago. My daughter, who's now 7, she was 4, I think. She was about 4. And I came home and I had promised her trampoline time, right? And so my phone was supposed to be off. I turn off my phone every day, almost every day, from 5:30 to 7:30, kind of like Sean did, to have that time. Now, I also do that on our board meetings as well. But we were getting onto the trampoline. She had been all excited. And as I'm getting on at him, my phone goes zzz, 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 zzz. And we all know that dreaded noise. And even if I don't look at it, my brain starts to play 7 different directions. I'm sure your doctor's going, oh
Absolutely.
yeah, this client or this insurance issue or what, we don't know. But I look at it, and I had a real estate closing that got totally screwed up. I mean, it was the simplest thing about title. I couldn't believe this thing wasn't going through. And of course I look at it, I'm like, oh man, and I put it away. I'm now completely in my head. I'm not on the trampoline. My brain's out here. I'm swearing under my breath. I'm really frustrated. And my 4-year-old daughter looks at me and she goes, Daddy, why are you so mad at me? And you want to talk about a dagger through the heart. This is where I'm saying, where if we are always open to taking that one text or Facebook thread or email or phone call, we're never fully there, and we can be pulled out emotionally, and you'll never really get below the surface.
It's amazing how intuitive, these kids are. Like, I mean, when my older son was younger, like, and he would come and like put my phone down or something, or
yeah, you hear about that all the time. And it's funny, Adam, when people go, well, my kids are on their phone too much. And I always kind of giggle, because I remember doing a retreat and we brought in this expert on technology. And she said, how many of you think your parents are hypocrites? And it was younger kids. They're like, what's a hypocrite? I'm like, well, they're talking about your phone. Are they on their phone a lot? Every hand of these kids went up. And so we say that about our kids, but if we're not able to put them down, or we use that at, oh, well, I'm running the business, I do that. Hey, no one's saying you can't run the business, but there has to be times of complete and total unavailability. So on these days that I have with my kid each quarter, now my teens, my oldest is 18 now, and we still do those. We respect each other that our phone is off. They know, like, hey, this is about us for the next 4 hours. Your life is not going to come to an end because you can't be in touch with social media for 4 hours. Our business should not blow up in 4 hours if we can't be there. But what can happen is deeper and meaningful conversation that might not happen if we keep getting that little interruption.
Yeah. And your business might do better without you too. That seems to be an overall theme, that if you just don't answer the call, they'll figure it out. Whatever
Isn't
they
that
need.
Amazing that all of a sudden, and that's what people said. It's so funny you say that all of a sudden, what a message that would have came in a half hour into your, this nice day planned with your kid got solved 4 hours later, and you didn't even need to get involved. It almost gives a little space. So yeah, that's a huge benefit, where people go, not only did it not blow up, things got done without me. So,
all right. So setting the day aside, 101. Then we've got putting our cell phones away.
Intermittent tech fasting. And then every parent I know, Adam, says, I want to support my kids' passions and talents more. I want to know what their interests are and support them. I don't want to do it for them, but I want to support them and make sure, I try to leave space to encourage that. And that's great. I agree with that totally. I think that's one of the best ways our kids can succeed, uncovering their gifts and talents. That's what I like to make the day about. When what I do for these days that I spend one-on-one with each of my children, I let them design the day. What do you want to do? Anything you want to do within reason, you plan the day. I go all in, my phone's off, one-on-one. I want to have this time with you. And you'll be amazed. I've been doing these over 10 years now, the things they put together. And it's all about them when you let them plan the day. The problem with pushy entrepreneurs or doctors is we think we know what's best. So you and I, with best intention, Adam, might say, well, we're going to go to this pro football game, and we set it up, we go, and, at the end of the day, we give ourselves a punch to the arm and say, isn't it great we bonded? But what if your kid had no interest in football? None at all. They want to go to an antique car show because they like cars and the building of them. I don't know. But when you let them pick, that's when you're going to see more of their own personal self come out, their own interests, their own talents, and you can better support it. They're also going to buy in more. When they design the day, how are they not? So I let my kids design the day. And then at the end of this day, I like to have a meal and leave some time for talking. It's that simple. And when I say talking, Adam, and I know you read the book, this is not a time I'm going to get together with my kid each quarter, one-on-one, turn our phones off, do something fun, have a meal. Oh man, that's when I can hit them with those 50 lectures of how they need to improve their life and take their studies more seriously. That's not really what this time is for. In fact, it becomes a lecture series. no one's going to want to go on another board meeting with you. What it's really for is letting them design the day, decompressing, having fun together, having a meal, and then conversation. The conversation might only take a few minutes, but what I've found it normally brings up, if you really are vulnerable and you're willing to lower your guard, it's a time when guys like you and I can give a sincere apology or a genuine compliment. And sometimes we're moving so damn fast, we forget to give both. You know, for us entrepreneurs, we're not immune to apology. We're not immune just because we're running a business through the pandemic, working hard. We still need to stop and apologize for things we do wrong. We're not very good at that always. And also, hey, everyone's been through weird stuff the last 2 years. Give some compliments, some genuine compliments of how your kids have been handling a situation. And that's when you're going to really start to see the relationship strengthen.
Absolutely. I think another big thing that I've learned so far is let them choose and then let them go about the day the way they want to too. So the first one Grant and I did, we went and played putt-putt. And the second one went to an LSU game. So he got to one of the putt-putt holes, and it was the one where you like, it goes down a tube to the lower level.
Yeah.
We spent like 45 minutes on that hole. He would just go get the ball, drop it back down. And, you know, I wanted to be like, all right, we have to go to the next one, but just kind of let him play. And same thing, we went to LSU game. He wanted to go to the game, was cheering, wanted to see. But then he started rolling down the hill, and we spent, 45 minutes with him just rolling down the hill, and missed, the first quarter of the game. But he was having a blast.
It's all about that letting them own the day. We own so many days for them at that age, to let them kind of, we kind of follow the leader on these days. It feels so good. They feel so honored, seen, loved. It really is special. And again, like you said, it might be things you want to do or not. I mean, I've had some princess parties, Adam, and I am not a good looking princess with my daughter, but that's what she wanted to do. So, and when you go all in, there is some level of respect that's felt, and they want to give that back in return then, which is fantastic.
And no tantrums, no yelling, nothing. It was like amazing.
Yeah, and that's where people go, oh, they're going to melt down, they're going to do that. And I said, when they have ownership of the day and your full attention, and all of a sudden your phone is not out for 4 hours, we don't realize how much these things get in the way. You've done them now. There is a level of decompression and connection that didn't exist the first 4 hours that you started. There is a change in the emotional environment.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right, so what's next?
Well, next is just getting started. A lot of people, Adam, will say, oh, all right, so you're telling me that we're always looking for something more complicated, right? The solution doesn't have to be as complicated as we've made the problem. They're going, well, what do we do? So you're saying to schedule a half day with each of my children one-on-one without my phone, doing something fun of their choice and talking at the end once a quarter, what's that going to do? That's not enough. I need more. I say, well, let's start with that and see where you are in a year. We all jump from exercise program to exercise program or business to business without letting it season or grow. I know people that have been doing these for over a decade, and it is the pillars in their relationship. It's a reset every 90 days to deepen and re-strengthen. And I can tell you with my sons, the relationship gets stronger for the in-between times because of these one-on-one days. And that can't be discounted. I think that's important. And there's two parts to this equation, which we haven't put a book out on this yet. But just like I think you need to spend this quality time with your children, you got to do it with your spouse. And I think it's even more important with your spouse as the starting point than your children. So I encourage people to take these principles and apply it once a week with their spouse. Pick a date. It might not be a full 4 hours or half day, but 2 to 3 hours once a week. Same bat time, same bat channel. So you don't mess it up. I mess things up all the time, Adam. But if I know date nights every Wednesday, 5:30 to 8:30, I'm not going to mess it up. It's just ingrained in my ADD brain. And if you use that one-on-one with your spouse, turn your phone off, go out for dinner, do something fun and spend time to talk, you'll never start dating your spouse. And the degree of grounding and repair and growth it can do for for people who are running businesses is insane. It's incredible. And I've spoken at a lot of big events, and these are pretty educated people. And I'll say, how many of you have a standing meeting with the CFO of your business? Hands all go up. Yep, it's every Thursday, 12 to 2, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, how many of you have a standing date and time with your wife every week or husband? And it's less than 10%. Less than 10% of the room raises their hands. And we say, we wonder why we're not integrated at home. We wonder why we're feeling like a stranger or just a part-time disciplinarian. It's really important to take these principles and look at it for all areas of your life. One-on-one, intermittent tech fasting. Let your spouse or your children plan the day and go all in. Now, sometimes it's fun for your spouse to plan it for them. I get that, but offer both. And I believe, again, on one podcast, Adam, we're not going to get into all of the exercises, all of the techniques. But if people just started to schedule these one-on-one days every quarter with their children and take their spouse on a date the same day, same time every week, I think that a lot of family troubles will be alleviated by 50 to 60%.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big thing, is just starting. I know I'm guilty of it. You know, you read all these books and get all these grand ideas, and then you don't ever execute on it. You just go on to the next book and the next idea. Yeah. So I think just like you said, putting it down on the calendar and just doing it the first time, and it's, you know, seeing the results, I think you'll absolutely make sure to schedule the next one.
For sure. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Adam, with almost a finale of it. We've learned that not only that which we schedule gets done, but the solution doesn't have to be as complicated as we've made the problem. I mean, remember that we're saying this is just too easy. It's not enough. That's just not true. The starting point can almost get you further than you ever thought, but we're always trying to complicate. We're always trying to find the next thing without actually implementing. People are choking on content, but starving for execution. So I always say, learn less, execute more.
And I know I've seen different numbers that, you know, by the time your kids are 18, you've spent 75, 80, 90% of the time that you'll ever spend with them.
Yes, sir. It's a little over 80% of all the quality time you'll ever have with your children will come at the end of the 18th summer. That's for the average person. I always say that's the average person. Now, a lot of us, you know, entrepreneurs, professionals, we want to be better than average. So I do think with plugging some of these principles in, that once they get 18, you're not average. You've maybe formed a relationship or integrated your life with family involved, that you're not down to 15% more time. You still have 20, 25, 30, 35% more time once they leave the nest. But you have to be very intentional with that.
Mm-hmm. I know that's something that's been big. My dad and I, when I started med school, we started going on yearly scuba trips, just the two of us. And that's awesome. Been amazing. Some of those, you know, conversations and experiences. So you can do it later in life too.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, and my father passed away this year on Christmas Day.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
It was really sad, but if you know the story, I donated a kidney to him about 10 years ago. So at that time, it was when I was adopting my two oldest boys, and I did this for my father. Our relationship was okay, but the last 10 years was pretty magical. I mean, we were very intentional. We had planned a lot of fun things, a lot of fun family events, different travels. We made the most of it. And so it was a sudden thing. He was healthy, fell within 2 weeks later, gone. Now, this was a lot of tears, a lot of sadness around the holidays. But for people that have interviewed me and said, I know you were close to your dad, he was a big part of the 18 Summer story. I said, you know, my pain has been eased because I dreaded this day, like a lot of people do, but I have no regrets. I was extremely intentional about the time I spent with my dad over the last 10 years. So when this ending came, I didn't have any regrets. And it's because I was very intentional with some of these principles with them. So I would say to people who are dreading this or dreading their kids leaving them or losing a loved one, regret or losing regret is one of the best ways that will help you through it, because I can sit here and say, yeah, I miss them. It was sad, but I have no regrets. And that does ease my pain.
Absolutely. That's powerful. So what do you think the biggest piece of advice you would give to physician dads?
First off, You guys are incredible. Thank you for what you do. Again, my dad wouldn't have lived another 10 years if someone didn't take a kidney out of me and put it into him. But this stuff isn't easy. So don't beat yourself up. You can be very hard on yourself. That's going to do absolutely no good. And even with being a doctor, and I think you guys get a lot more pressure put on you just because for years we heard, oh, the perfect life is being the successful doctor. That puts even more pressure on you. Just know that in the work I've done with thousands of families over the last 10 years, there is no perfect family out there. Not one, even as you put these things through. And I don't know who put that together, perfect family. It's a terrible saying for family life. There's no perfect family. This isn't about perfection. It's about bridging imperfections and making the most of the time you got. And just because if you have a patient and man, I didn't really diagnose that right, it doesn't mean that you can't diagnose the next 50 patients right. So sometimes when we miss a date or we miss a board meeting with our kids that quarter, we almost try to throw the baby out with the bathwater, Adam. We're too hard on ourselves. We say we're not perfect. No, just get back on the horse. Don't be too hard on yourself. Hold yourself accountable, but don't be too hard on yourself. There's no perfect family, and we're all still learning. I mean, that's something us, our children, our spouse, we're all still learning. So give yourself a little credit and be a little easier on yourself, maybe. And that might be some of the best advice I can give.
Yeah, absolutely. I think giving yourself a little grace it can go a long way. So where can the guys find you? Where can they find out more about the book and your programs?
Yeah, the book you can find anywhere on Amazon, The Family Board Meeting. And then you can find anything you want on our program, some of the other things that I do with groups like GoBundance or Front Row Dads on 18summers.com.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jim. We really enjoyed this conversation and think this is going to really help a lot of listeners.
I hope so, Adam. It's good chatting with you guys.
Good chatting with you.
You've been listening to the Dads Before Doctors podcast. Family men who are doctors rather than doctors who have families. In an evolving and ever fast-paced world, we cannot lose sight of our real priorities. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had fun. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And tell a friend about the show. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at dadsbeforedoctors.com. Questions, comments, suggestions? Email adam@dadsbeforedoctors.com. And find us on Facebook and Instagram at Dads Before Doctors. Remember, the host of this show is not your doctor, your coach, or your financial advisor. This show is strictly for entertainment. Till next time, this is Dads Before Doctors, signing off.